Baseball Podcast here today with Farbode Markazi, Alex Rudy. I'm Alex Uwe. Today we're going to talk about the AL Wild Card race. It is one of the more interesting races to look at right now. There's about 5 teams that have a serious shot. But first I kind of want to talk about one team that took their name off the list by taking over in the AL West. The red hot Texas Rangers knocked the Astros into the second wildcard spot. And going forward, the Astros are going to have to work uphill again. So what do you think their chances are at this point?
I think the Rangers are the better team. For the division, I think it's going to be the Rangers. Just because of momentum and they're the better team.
Okay, if I asked you this question a week ago when the Astros still held on to,
I said last week I was still saying the Rangers.
Okay. What if we went as far as a month back?
If it was
you would have no
a month back, I would have
a
month back. I admit it. I said the Astros, but that was before the Astros were on their horrendous slide that they've been on for the past week or so. The last couple weeks or so.
Rudy?
You're asking would I believe the Rangers would be doing this well at this point in the season? Is that correct?
A month or two ago.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
But do you believe in them at this point?
No.
You don't believe in the Rangers? You think they're gonna fall off again?
I mean, do I think it's possible that they'll end up winning that second wild card? I mean, I guess.
We're talking more about the division.
Crazy. Right now. Oh, win the division. Sorry, win the division. There's been enough crazy teams outperform expectations this year that anything could happen. But I just can't believe that they have the talent I guess their team is better. I guess their team really is pretty decent. I don't know. I'd be very surprised to really see them at the end of the year in first place. But every single day they prove themselves to be legit, more and more legit, just as the Astros did in the beginning of the year. And I give credit to their GM. He made some he probably made, I think, second to the Blue Jays. They probably had the best best trading season.
John Daniels he's very underrated. He's one of the best gentlemen.
They just had so much depth. Napoli, Venable, Drew Stubbs. They traded for Hamels, of course, very important. Hall. They've gotten some luck with guys from injury coming back. I mean, what can I do with that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say
they're probably just as good as the Astros.
Whoa.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
That startled me too.
They're probably about equal in talent overall, I would say.
Yeah, the only reason I still like the Astros in this case is because this month the Astros have been underperforming and the Rangers have been overperforming.
Yeah.
Just to, get themselves into a good position. If the Astros are able to do anything close to what they did during the season, I think they have the Rangers still. Because they have a lot of talent. It's just none of it's been clicking. Correa's cooled down a bit. Altuve hasn't been Altuve. George Springer's back, but he's not producing the same way. I mean, those are 3 big spark plugs that really aren't able to score a lot of runs for this team. And the pitching, it's really a lot of talented pitching too, but it's not super reliable. You got guys like Lance McCullers and Mike Fiers who have pretty good strikeout numbers, but aren't always gonna give you the a winning start.
And not to mention McCullers at this point, this is the most innings he's ever pitched in his career, so he might be a little tired after especially after a couple of his previous starts.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also important to talk about Dallas Keuchel, who got shelled in his last start against the Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
it wasn't home.
He's losing his grip on the Cy Young.
Yeah, and last time we did our awards, we said Dallas Keuchel for sure, but now we're taking a closer look at David Price, and he's looking like a more viable option at this point. But the thing with Keuchel is, the home road splits are very, very drastic compared to a lot of pitchers. And I think when it's time for a big game, he will be good. He will be good enough. I'm not saying he's gonna be like Clayton Kershaw or Jake Arrieta good, or Zach Greinke good, like where you know what you're gonna get from him. But I think he is the kind of ace at this point that can take the ball in a big game. He kind of showed that starting the All-Star game that he can bear down and get some outs when he needs to. So I'm not too worried there. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other teams looking from the outside in, though. We have the Angels, the Twins, or not. That's not in that order. It's the Twins, the Angels.
No, right now it's the Angels, Twins.
It is the Angels. Okay, sorry.
Well,
Angels, Twins, Indians are 1 game, 2 game, and 3 games back.
This is one thing I'm going to say about the Angels. This next 5 or so games, I think, will say if they're going to completely miss the wild card or still have a shot, because I think they have 2 or 3 more against the Twins, and then they're going into Houston for 3. So if they lose every one of them, they're out. I think they have to win like 3 or 4 of them to still be in the hunt.
I think it helps that Mike Trout's swinging a red hot bat right now.
Thank God, finally.
Yeah, I mean the support staff is still very, very. I'm just gonna say bad.
It is. It really is.
Pretty bad. I mean, they get production from like little places here and there, but it's not enough. They really have to rely on Mike Trout. And from a pitching standpoint, they haven't had Garrett Richards as their ace really, because he has not been giving them winning starts every time out either. And they don't really have that guy right now. I mean, you'd say it's Richards.
You want to say it's Richards, but it's not.
It's not. It really isn't when you look at it. And, he's probably the most talented out of all of their pitchers too, but it gets to a point where you have to decide who you're going to give the ball to in a big game. So.
Did you guys see that moment with Weaver and Kyle Seager? Kyle Seager, was that his name?
Kyle on the Mariners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see what
that big tirade when Seager called time on him like 3 times, and then Weaver hit him?
Weaver basically said don't do that or whatever.
I feel like
and then
Angel season in one play right there.
And then Seager says drops an F-bomb on him, and then Weaver's. I mean, okay. First of all, Seager, why are you mad? He throws an 80-mile-an-hour fastball. It's not like it's gonna hurt you.
Nobody's scared of Jared Weaver throwing at you.
And then, second of all, it was hilarious what they said back and forth. In the press conference, Seager just said something like, "I think he quit on his team and I didn't." And then Weaver comes back and says, "I don't even know who that kid is." And he just moves on. So, you're right. That completely describes the Angels season right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, nonetheless, they're still right there in it, and we'll see what they can do. But the AL Central teams are really the biggest story in my mind, with the Twins, who have been overperforming all year long. And then you have the Indians, who really underperformed most of the season and are now still hanging around 3 games back. And they have 7 games against each other still to play. So that is going to be a huge, huge couple of series.
I think this is what's really confusing. I think, before the All-Star break, Twins were they were doing really well, and then we're like, okay, they're going to eventually they're going to fall out the picture. I know they're only 3 games over 500, they haven't been playing the best baseball, but they're still not out of the picture, and I think we're all a little confused because we don't want to be believers, and I'm not a believer either because there's no way this team can do anything with that bullpen. But it's kind of surprising how they're still in this September.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of the teams that you don't really think of as just hitting their way to a playoff spot, but that's pretty much what they're doing. Their starting pitching is not great by any means.
And their bullpen's
not
great at all.
Their defense and their hitting is second to none, pretty much. I mean, you talk about a lot of young talent too. You got Sano, you have Eddie Rosario and Aaron Hicks have been pretty good in the outfield. I've talked about them before. Buxton has been okay. He's actually he's not a negative offensively anymore, which is good. And of course, he's a plus to have defensively. And you still have Torrey Hunter, who can swing it. You still have Joe Mauer, who's always a tough at bat. You have Brian Dozier, who has been cold lately, but he swings a very nice power bat. And there's a lot of pieces that are good there. And
honestly, in my
it's not
opinion,
like they're coming out of nowhere.
If they make the playoffs and they win the second wild card and they beat the Yankees in that game, I think it would not be a good example of what I don't think it would really show that the second wild card is really good for baseball, because they're just, maybe it's gonna sound like stuck up or something, but I don't think they're a team that deserves to be in the playoffs.
It is good for baseball because they're competing. That's one of the main points.
3 games over 500 straight get you in the playoffs. The playoffs are too big if that's all you need.
Yeah, and I think
the Yankees are only 5. I think that's the most that should be even considered a team that's good enough for the playoffs. I think that's barely good enough. 3, you shouldn't be in the playoffs on this close, in my opinion. I think that's too much. I think that's allowing mediocrity too much room, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's a good transition to the whole point of, are they going to make the wild card a 3-game series, which it's very likely going to happen, because I think everybody understands that one game to ruin there's a pretty big difference between the first wild card and second wild card spot, and just one game can knock out a team that's much more deserving in this case. I think a 3-game series would solve a lot of problems there. It would keep the competition level up, but not be like an unfair situation that the first wild card team is put in, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, it's nothing set in stone with that change, but I think it's going to happen.
Wait,
you think it's going to happen?
I agree with you. That's going to be a major topic. I don't know if I agree with making it a 3-game series, but I do think it's a very interesting debate. But I have to interrupt you. Byron Buxton's batting 200 in 115 at-bats with 0 home runs, 6 doubles and 1 triple. That's awful. That cannot be considered okay. I'm sorry. I just had to.
But he's striking out less.
That's
and
horrible.
He's not a negative.
That's a negative.
I think
negative.
they use him for speed right now.
I mean, I guess that's acceptable considering he's technically a 4th outfielder. Or he could be. You have Hicks, Rosario, and Hunter, who are not.
They have like 3 average hitters at best. Their offense is not good.
That's what's been taking them places though.
That shows that this team does not deserve to be in the playoff hunt. I'm sorry. That's just I actually really like the second wild card. I think it adds a lot of entertainment to the season, 100%. But I mean, the fact that these Twins and Indians teams are they're not good enough to deserve to be in this hunt. It's just, I don't know. It's like how in basketball, the Eastern Conference sends 2 horrendous teams to the playoffs every year.
And they play the first 2 seeds too.
Sorry?
And they play the first 2 seeds too. So it's the 2 best teams in the conference, and then they play 2 teams under 500.
Yeah, so they basically a free pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, the Indians are not the Twins, I think. They're a very different situation. Because their starting pitching, in theory, should be one of the, the Indian starting pitching is awful?
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it is.
I heard awful.
One of the better rotations in the league.
I tried to.
It sounded like awful.
I meant
I'm sorry. But yeah, it is very good. They have, 4 above average pitchers, like 4 potential 1 and 2s. And then they have, even Josh Tomlin lately has been pretty good for them.
And then the rest of the guys are just solid. 4 potential 1 and 2s, and the rest of the guys are solid. So I think that just
good
says.
Bullpen. And, the offense isn't, they don't have, the big bat in their lineup. Their big bat is Brantley, who's, he's a gap-to-gap guy, not a big power guy. And he's their guy pretty much. They have Kipnis and Lindor up the middle, who I think are going to make an argument for one of the best, middle infield duos in the game, by the way, offensively. But beyond that, it's not complete. There's a lot of mixing and matching going on there. Ryan Rayburn pretty much plays only against lefties, but he's super productive when he does. But, with how often you're not going to play less than
Chris Johnson has been insane since he was traded over.
In a good way or a bad way?
Good way.
Huh. I did not know this.
He's been hitting very well since he was traded over.
Isn't Ryan Rayburn like 80 years old?
Give or take. Yeah. Yeah, they also have, Carlos Santana, who's, even though he's been struggling, he has a horrendous batting average. He's still a tough out. His on-base percentage is formidable just because of how much he walks. The power's starting to come around a little bit more. He just hit a grand slam off of Chris Sale. It counts for something. So, I mean, it's not like they have nothing going on. Yan Gomes has been underperforming severely, but, there's still pop in the bat. It's not like it just went away. Yeah, and it's an interesting case with them. Just, they're not a scary team, but they should have done better than 500, you would think, right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, and that's where they sit right now.
They should be, by pure talent, I think they should be the team that's in the second wild card right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they were just, up until about the last month or so, they pretty much sucked, so. Yeah. They've had to get really hot to even make it this far.
Yeah, and I actually just wrote an article. I haven't posted it anywhere yet, but that will be posted, and there will be a link to that on the Indians the next 2 weeks going down the stretch, and how their likelihood of being in, because they have a lot of teams to leapfrog, and of course their series against the Twins are very big. But basically the gist is they can do it, but there's zero room for error. So we shall see with the Indians, and then also there's a few other teams that are sitting just outside of that, but with them, they would pretty much have to win out, and all these other teams would have to lose the rest of the season to have a shot. There's the Rays and the Orioles, and the Mariners are not too far back anymore. There's just no way they can leapfrog all these teams. If a week from now we're saying something different, that's clearly going to be the best story. So, anyway, it's a good race. 5 teams for 2 spots is a good race. Yeah, so that's going to do it for our wildcard discussion for today. As always, you can tweet us at WFB_podcast on Twitter, or you can email us at warandpeacebaseball@gmail.com. Leave us any feedback, any questions, any other comments you have for us. So, that's all for now. As always, for Bode.
Peace.